We are back for another episode. I could never be back to back. We had an episode yesterday. We're usually once a week here on the Popcorn Talk, but guess what? It's the beginning of the year. Everybody needs more motivation. How your resolutions doing? Mine, they could use some work. If yours needs some work, guess what? You're in the right place because this show is all about motivation, all about inspiration, and helping you realize that the people who you see on your TV screens, you listen to their music, you see them in concert, their successful lives, they've grinded, they've worked, they've persevered, and we help you show you exactly what they've been through. And today's guest is no different. Her journey, incredible, and the things that she's achieved. And we're going to just break down exactly what her ride to success was. But again, thank you for joining us here on the Popcorn Talk. Yesterday's episode was great. I want to shout out Deadline, Up Rocks, Daily Mail, all picked it up. We had an interview with Richard Schiff, an actor. You can find that on YouTube. We're also on Apple Podcasts. Go over there if you got some time. I know our guest today actually did some research and listened to the podcast. He's a big podcast person. But as we know, before every show, we do a little advice for a better life. And today's advice deals with the problems that you see that you might think are so greater than what they are. And I use the example of a car going 100 miles an hour and a car going 0 miles an hour. Sometimes the difference is just one part. If you've ever had car issues, sometimes it's just one thing can stop a car from going 100 miles an hour to 0. And when it happens, you're like, oh, there must be like 9 things wrong, when it could just be one thing. So if you're going on in life and you're like, things are not working, there must just be a bunch of different things that I need to change, maybe it's just one thing. Maybe it's just one small little part that you need to fix, and then you're going to take off. So there's your motivation, some advice for a better life to start the day. Today's guest might be the smartest guest we've ever had. And you'll find that out when we talk about her story. She is currently on Arrow on the CW, which is currently playing. She's also lead in Shadowhunters, which comes back here just in a couple weeks. So many fans I know in the live chat are so excited. Please welcome Kat McNamara.
Hello.
How are you doing? Thank you first for showing up. Thank you for coming prepared and for actually listening to the show, which is incredible.
Of course. I love podcasts. It's because I'm always in my car or on an airplane or something or on set. And it's so nice to have something to listen to. Or if I'm at the gym, I get sick of listening to the same music over and over again. I can only listen. I mean, I love Hamilton, but I can't listen to those songs on repeat for more than a few times before I start to sing along in the gym. And then people start looking at you funny. And then it's just not a good thing. So podcasts keep me looking somewhat sane.
And I think you're very, like I saw yesterday in your Instagram story, you posted like a motivational quote. I think you're very motivational and like all about, inspiration and that kind of lifestyle.
I try. Well, it's something that I realized being on a show that has an audience that's a bit younger, for some of it at least. I see a lot of young people on my social media. I get a lot of questions about advice and what motivates me. And so I said to myself a few months ago, I said, if I can take 5 seconds on my Monday morning or sometimes Monday evening if the Golden Globes were Sunday, and post a quote that inspires me, that gets me out of bed in the morning and just puts a smile on my face, why not? If it brightens somebody's day.
And it's so easy too. It's something that's simple, and I think sometimes we overthink about maybe the content that we put out on social media, and it's like, just post a tweet, retweet something.
Yeah.
It's so easy.
100%. And if I can put a little bit of positivity out into a world, out into the social media verse that has so much negativity already, it makes it all worthwhile.
And I always say, if you end your day having helped just one person, that day is a success.
It's true. Well, and I've seen it too, because I can't tell you, I do these Comic-Cons all over the world where I have the wonderful opportunity to meet a lot of these fans in person and talk to them. And they'll bring me letters sometimes, they'll bring me different little things, or they'll say, hey, I love the Monday motivation. But a few have actually made me little flip books of motivational quotes.
Wow.
Or I even have a jar that's labeled Monday Motivation that has a bunch of slips of paper with quotes on it inside that they've made for me. And it's just so wonderful to see those come back around. Or they make a fan book for every Comic-Con of all the quotes and stories and favorite scenes and stuff. And there's a section in every fan book that I get that's Monday motivation quotes. And I just think it's so neat that something that takes 5 seconds for me actually affects somebody.
That's awesome. And I know we have so many fans, hundreds of people right now in the chat, which if you guys have questions, shoot them on here. I'll try to work them in. We're all about that on that show, being engaged, and obviously this is for you guys. The reason we do this show is for you. It's a free show. We're not charging you anything.
Nope.
We want to be able to give you some inspiration and some positivity. And while you're on social media, make sure that you follow Kat at Kat_McNamara on Twitter, at Kat.McNamara on Instagram. You can follow me at The Only MC, and of course Popcorn Talk at The Popcorn Talk. underscore versus the dot on Twitter, Instagram. What's the story here?
So the story is I got Twitter before I got Instagram.
Okay.
And I had made the Twitter for work. It happened. Then when my friends finally convinced me to make an Instagram, it was actually something else for years. It was Kit Kat's Meow because Kat underscore
okay.
McNamara was taken and I just wanted to do something silly. I was 16. I don't know. But then recently I went, I'm in my 20s now. I should probably have an Instagram
Need to be
handle.
professional.
Yeah, exactly. So, Kat underscore McNamara was still taken, but we were able to get kat.mcnamara.
Now, is Kat underscore is that a fan account? Did someone...
No, it's it's just a person
Really?
who that happens to be their Instagram name, and I didn't want to take it. It's someone's private account, and I didn't want to say, "Hey, I'm an actor. Hey,
do
need
you
your
know who I
verified
am?"
account." Yeah, no way. So I went for the .McNamara.
You're on Arrow right now, and obviously Shadowhunters. Now, both of those fan bases are amazing. And they follow the characters so much, both on and off the show. How are those fan bases different and the same? I mean, what have you seen since joining Arrow comparing the two?
Yeah, I mean, what I love in general about these sort of fan bases that are all based on source material or these sci-fi fantasy shows that have such a strong following is that people actually really care.
Yeah.
So often as an actor, you'll put something out into the world that you pour your heart and soul into. And, people might watch it once or go, oh, that's interesting. But these people are so invested. They watch it over and over again and they think about it. And the amount of conversations I've had where I've learned more than the person I'm speaking to about the show and the character. And, it's changed my perspective completely on these things. And I'm really grateful because, we pour blood, sweat, and tears into making these things.
Yep.
And the fact that it makes someone happy out there and they really are invested and care about it, it's fantastic.
Yeah, and that gets back to everyone. We're saying, it's easy to retweet someone. It's easy to do the same in reverse, too. If you really enjoy someone, let them know on Twitter.
Let them know. We're actors. We have a lot of insecurities. It really makes us feel good if you say, hey, I like that. Good job.
Were you a superhero fan before Arrow? I mean, were you involved in the comic universe?
I've always been a fan of it. I didn't ever know a lot about it.
Okay.
I had seen a few episodes of Arrow. I had seen little bits of all of these different things. And of course, being someone who's been to Comic-Con a few years in a row now, I've seen it and I've seen the frenzy and I've learned about it. But the fandoms are they're very different and they're very much the same. They care about different things, but ultimately it's the heart of them that has that core that carries through no matter what. And the thing that I will give them the most credit for, I was really nervous about announcing that I was going over to Arrow because I didn't want the Shadowhunters fans to feel as though I was abandoning
jealous
them.
Comparison.
Exactly. But they've come together. They go, oh great, now there's more we get to watch and there's more
that's
fandom
awesome.
and we can bring everybody over and cross-pollinate. And it's been fantastic.
Now, your character in Arrow, we have a picture here. I think it's the picture we're about to bring up. I mean, you're BA in this. Like the fight scene where this is, where you're like in a cage.
Yeah.
What was that day like, Phil? How do you even get in like that training shape and to know what you're doing?
Well, I'm very lucky given that on Shadowhunters we had amazing stunt coordinators and trainers who trained on their off time and on our off time. So I would train 3 to 5 times a week with these world-class martial artists during Shadowhunters. So I've had a few years of this kind of training, and now moving on to Arrow, I'm so excited because I get to continue that. So most of that fight was me, aside from a few of the tricks and things that for insurance purposes they won't let me do. But it was so fantastic to be able to actually show up for my first episode and do my own fight scene and do all of that. But it did make me chuckle because they said it was a cage fight. In the script, it says cage fight.
Okay.
And I said, oh, okay, cool. So, an MMA cage, I'm thinking. Like a boxing ring sort of a thing. No, I show up on set, it's a full-on rebar cage. And I went, oh, that's interesting. But sure, why not? It was really fun. Because it provided, when you have an environment that's so immersive, it provides so much more to do. For example, the first thing I do now in this scene is I jump up on the ceiling and boot the guy in the chest. That wasn't in the script. That wasn't in the choreography. But when we got to set, we looked at it and went, oh, we can do that.
Let's do that.
Let's add that in as the first time you see her be, her booting a big, tall guy in the chest.
It's an incredible scene. It really is incredible.
Thank you.
Now, your character is in the flash forwards, and so we haven't learned exactly who your new character is or who you're going to be. What can fans, a lot of people are asking in the chat, what can fans expect
Well, there's a lot of speculation.
Okay.
And the hardest part about being a part of Arrow so far has been all the secrets.
Yep.
Because I have many that I'm not allowed to share, and I'm dying to. But I'm very good at keeping secrets, so they have
Dang
nothing
it.
to worry about. My employers don't sweat. No, but it's a very exciting character because there is so much to mine out of her, and she is someone unlike Clary, my character on Shadowhunters. Clary is someone who was wide-eyed, thrown into this world, having to figure it out. My character here is grown up in this world. She's a product of that harsh, brutal environment. And she's very much one that will punch first and ask questions later. And one who is not to be underestimated. And someone who has a lot of issues of her own to work through. But she's a very interesting person, and it's great to be a part of now this future storyline team, which is an amalgamation of new characters that have grown up, and an amalgamation of some of the old characters too. I just got to work with Colton Haynes for the first time, who I know is a fan favorite and a personal favorite. He's a fantastic human being that I'm so excited that I get to spend time with, and it's been, and Juliana as well, who is just fantastic. It's nice to be welcomed into a show in such a warm way, given that they're in their 7th season.
Yeah,
and they're very well established.
they were a very established group and very tight-knit, and to be able to welcome you in, that's fantastic.
It's true, and I have to give the biggest credit to, I haven't met everyone yet, but one of my first experiences on the Arrow set, I went up for some meetings and fittings and such, and I happened to be in the hair and makeup trailer. It was, they had this episode that was basically a big fight scene.
Okay.
Top to bottom, Steven was getting his butt kicked from the beginning to the end, and kicking butt from the beginning to the end of the episode. Not easy to shoot, I know from doing that on Shadowhunters, and it was one of those days. He stepped in the hair and makeup trailer for something else, stopped everything, jumped out of his chair, came over, said hello to me, really made sure I felt welcome. And that's been sort of the best example of my entire experience on Arrow. And I just, it's such a nice thing to be the new kid, but to feel as though I belong.
Yeah, and I'm sure you will take that now and do the exact same on your next project or on Shadowhunters, whoever's coming in. Like,
yeah, that's what I used to do on Shadowhunters all the time. I was not only working, but I was playing host to our guest stars, our directors, or anyone who was coming in and out of the show. And it's so nice to have that come back and to really understand what that means to a person.
Now, one of the questions for Arrow that people were having, how old is your character compared to the other characters in the flash forwards? Because I guess it's a little tricky of adult, kid. So
I've been told that I think between, they haven't told me an exact age. I know I'm between 19 and like 23, I think.
Okay.
So I don't know where exactly I fall, but I know I'm playing my age now, which is awesome. Being someone who's been playing 18 for the last 4 years, it's really awesome to play my age. Not that playing 18 is a bad thing.
Nope.
But it's cool. It's the first time in my career, I think, that I've actually played my own age.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
Shadowhunters. We're a number of weeks.
I know.
Till it's coming back.
I know. It's
What is the energy? I mean, what are you feeling right now?
Well,
going into it being the last section.
It's very bittersweet, all of it. This entire section of Shadowhunters for me has been bittersweet because it's the beginning of our last 12 episodes, and they're our best episodes we've ever done. The show has finally found its voice, and it's so rich and it's so wonderful. It's also exciting because we can finally talk about it again, and I have so much behind the scenes content, so much I'm dying to hear what people have to say. We shot season 3B over a year ago now. Wow. I was shooting the first few episodes of 3B a year ago now. So it's been so long, and we've been dying to talk about all this and share the photos and hear what people think. Normally, it's not as much time for us, but it makes it really exciting. I mean, also, I'm currently dead on the show, so it'll be nice to be able to actually say something other than, well, I'm dead, but I'm in the episode, so check that out.
Are the main characters, are you talking now of like you're saying, you have that feeling of, man, we can finally say something, we can finally be able to realize that this is coming out. Is there a group chat on texting, or that you guys are like, Oh my goodness, this many days, like it's finally going to come out,
Yeah.
or it's finally going to happen?
Well, we definitely have a group chat. We
Okay.
have since season 1, which has been a nice way to sort of share the experience and go through both the craziness and the fun together. Also, the guys will get on a joking rant and start getting on each other in the funniest way and riding on each other's jokes. So I'll come out of a movie and have 253 notifications, but it's fine. It's great. It gives me a little bit of a
Yep.
comedy script to read on
Love
the way
it.
home. No, but it's really fun. We're definitely trying to plan some really cool ways to involve the fans and live tweet and really make this special for all of us.
What can 12 more episodes.
Mm-hmm.
What can fans expect in that 12? I mean, emotion, is it going to be an
Yeah.
emotional roller coaster?
Oh,
Is it-
100%. I mean,
Okay.
Shadowhunters is always emotional.
True.
We always would joke whenever our characters would get into a situation where they're actually happy or something good is happening in their lives. We go, okay, I don't believe this. This can't last. When are things going to go horribly wrong? Because nothing's ever happy for too long in the shadow world. But that's why we love it, because these characters work through it and they get through it together. But what can I say? I can say expect the unexpected, I guess is the best way
Okay.
to put it. Anything that you think you can count on, anything you think you're sure of, anything that you think is solid and set in stone will get turned on its head, will get ripped away from you, will get turned upside down. We all recently got to see the last 2 episodes, the series finale, and it's emotional. I'll tell you that. The entire season 3B is emotional and interesting. We do a lot of very different things. We push the envelope. Clary, for sure, is different than we've ever seen her before. And it's so exciting to a character that, has been so well established to really turn her on her head and go, all right, this is the complete other side of
Did you watch it by yourself, or were you watching it with other people?
So we watched the series finale with Todd and Darren, our showrunners, and a few of the other creatives, because it was the music mix. So they
Okay.
were mixing in different levels of
Okay.
sound and music and effects and stuff. And Emerald, Luke, myself, Dom were all there. Harry was there. I think that was everyone. There was a whole group of us that got together to watch it, whoever was in town and available. And it made it really special. It's a lot of fun. We were all
Awesome.
crying together. It's great.
Fantastic. Question from Hannah in the chat. How do you feel when you're a shadow hunter? Like when you're in that character?
It's really amazing because the sets are so immersive and the wardrobe and everything else. And you really do get to feel like a badass, especially during the fight scenes. And, one of my favorite things that we shot on the show was at the end of season 2. There's this massive book moment that happens that, we pulled it almost directly from the books. And myself and Dom Sherwood, who plays Jace, and Alan Van Sprang, who played Valentine on the show, had been building up this moment for 2.5, 3 years on the show, and we finally got to play it out. And it's this big epic fight scene, and we're dying, and this Dom's dead on the beach, and then he comes back, and this whole big epic thing, and we're crying for 10 hours straight, and we're covered in mud because it happened to rain that morning, and it's a whole production. But it's one of those days where 100%, oops, there goes everything.
You're good?
100% that you have left every bit of yourself on that set. And I give huge credit to our crew because they created an environment for us that they could just set up what they needed to and leave us alone to create the story in that space and really live it. And you feel badass. You feel as though you're a part of that person. Playing Clary for almost 4 years, I know her almost better than I know myself.
Wow.
And it's such an interesting experience, but it allows for so much more fun when you can get into the nuance of a character once you know the basics.
How have you grown over the last 4 years of playing and acting, even in general, just that character, but then your growth as an actor, your growth in life over the last 4 years?
Well, how
have you
long
grown?
do we have? No, honestly, because I was 19 when I started Shadowhunters, and now I'm in my mid-20s, and it's so interesting looking at that transitional part of your life and going, it's really bookended by Shadowhunters. I say that I grew up on that show, and I feel so lucky to be surrounded by that particular cast and crew and team of creatives, just given that they're not only such a diverse variety of people with different experiences and different bases of knowledge and personalities, but also people who are incredible artists and incredibly ambitious, but also wonderful human beings. So, getting to be surrounded by those sort of influences was the best thing for me. And I grew creatively, I grew as a person, I gained confidence in speaking up for myself and finding who I am and figuring out who that person is, as well as stepping out of my comfort zone. It was akin to having 5 big brothers all the time. So I got pushed to step outside of my comfort zone all the time, and I'm so grateful for that. I'm so thankful to have been corrupted a little bit in the best possible way.
Not too much, just the right amount of corruption.
Truly, just the right amount. I was a bit of a square when I started Shadowhunters, and I grew into myself a little bit, I feel.
Someone says, did you learn what you were playing, or where did you learn that you were playing Clary?
This is actually an interesting story. They were casting Shadowhunters, because the fan base already existed from the book series, they were tweeting it out, and they were sort of making it a thing for the fans to get people excited. And so they said that they would be announcing Clary in 2 hours on their Twitter account, and I still hadn't heard anything. And I knew it was between me and one other actress, and I went, oh, well, I guess it's not me then, because I didn't hear anything, and I guess I'll move on. And I was really gutted, because I'd fought really hard through several rounds, and it had been almost 6 months of casting, and you get attached by that point,
For sure.
And Dom and I were friends beforehand, so knowing that he was in the project, I really wanted to work with a friend and all this. And then I get a call about 10 minutes later from my manager saying, hey, they haven't said anything to anyone yet. Hold on. Just hang tight. So I'm going, huh? And then I'm watching Twitter as Who is Clary is trending, and all of these things are happening. Things are exploding. Speculation is going left, right, and center. And it's almost down to the wire, and I get a phone call 10 minutes before the 2 hours is up. And then they tell me, they go, congratulations, you are playing Clary. It's going to go live on Twitter in 10 minutes. Here we go. Get ready. And I'm speechless. I'm kind of catatonic in a sense, because it hits me that in 10 minutes, this fandom that is so passionate and is going crazy, they're all going to know that it's me. And I'm just praying that they approve and that they like me. And that, it's that thing of, I hope they like me. I really did. I was very concerned. And I couldn't have been given a warmer welcome by the fandom. And I'm so grateful that I literally couldn't use my phone for about 4 hours. Because, of course, I was silly. I didn't have my notifications turned off. I didn't know what I was doing. So not only am I getting calls and texts from friends and family,
ding, 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 ding.
My Twitter and Instagram are just an explosion of the Shadow fam. And little did I know that it would become one of it would become my community online, really. All of these wonderful people that were saying hello and welcome.
Yeah, and it's your family for life, too.
Oh, 100%.
Because that's has to be an amazing feeling.
It really is. And this is the thing that I keep telling the Shadow fam and our wonderful fandom out there, is that even if there are no more episodes of the show, even if we never see another episode of Shadowhunters that's new, even though the show is going its way, this community that they've created, this little microcosm, or it's bigger than a microcosm now, of people that feel as though they have a place where they're accepted and where they can share their experience and their thoughts and their opinions. And I've seen people make friends across the globe because of this fandom. That doesn't have to end. That can keep growing. This beacon of positivity on social media and in the world can continue to exist, and should, because it's something that's so special and so important.
After these 12 episodes, do you think that at some point it will be brought back, it will be rebooted? Do you think in the years to come, would you like to be part of something like that?
Whether or not it will is above my pay grade, and I don't have the authority or the knowledge to properly speak about it.
She has a lot of power, folks, but not that much.
Not that much. Most of my power is on TV, thanks to folks VFX and the wonderful team at Shadowhunters. But no, I would love to. Honestly, this team is family, and they mean the world to me. From the cast, crew, creatives to the fandom, I would go back to play Clary in a heartbeat, happily.
Love it. Way before you became Clary, way before you moved to LA, Lee's Summit, Missouri. Tell 100%. Me about Lee's Summit, Missouri.
Well, this is the thing about Missouri.
Ooh, I love it right away. It wasn't Missouri, it was... Here's the thing about Missouri.
Yes.
Love it.
It's a wonderful place to grow up. It really, they are the best people. They're salt of the earth, midwesterners,
Midwestern.
just the biggest hearts. You know, they will give you the shirt off their back if you need something. They will sit with you at the grocery store and have a 2-hour conversation, even if you're a stranger. But it's, you know, it's flat, and there's corn and cows. The best barbecue is from Kansas City, Missouri. I will fight you on it.
She's holding to it.
I will. But that's Missouri, and that's where I grew up, and I'm so thankful to have grown up in such a grounded place, because now my life is just insane, and I'm on an airplane every other week, and I'm flying to some other random corner of the world and doing something, or, you know, fighting with swords in the middle of the woods, or, you know, doing something insane. Or on the red carpet at the Golden Globes, I guess. I don't know. My life continues to surprise me. But having that foundation is everything to me.
Did you realize, because we teased at the top of the show, that you're possibly the smartest guest we've ever had on here. And the reason, and I read, you graduated from high school at 14?
Yeah.
And then you got your degree at 17?
Yeah.
At what age did you realize that you're going to graduate at 40? Because that's not like, hey, I just turned 13. I feel like I'm going to graduate in a year. Like, at what point are you on that path of graduating at 14?
So here's the thing. I come from a family of science and medical professionals.
Okay.
So I have a very intelligent family in a way that I'm not intelligent. I can understand science, but it's not my thing at all. Never has been. Math was my thing. Numbers, economics. I wanted to go into finance before I was an actor. I probably would have ended up in developmental economics. Long story short, that's a whole other conversation.
That's next time.
But I have to give the biggest shout out to my preschool teacher, Miss Vicky, who I'm still friends with to this day. She pulled me aside when I was 3 and saw that I had this voracious hunger for knowledge and learning, and I really loved it. And so she made it fun for me. And she took me aside and said, hey, you should read this, and you should do this math, and you should do all of this, to the point where I was doing multiplication and division and reading chapter books by the time I was 6. I also decided that I wanted to learn how to read when I was 2.5, and I took it upon myself to tell my mother that I wanted to do Hooked on Phonics and learn how to read.
As most 2.5-year-olds do. It's a normal thing.
I was a very strange child. I still am, but that's, you know, that's why I'm an actor, because I never want to grow up. My mom, who's a research scientist, she also raised me very Socratically, to the point where instead of me going, Mommy, why is the sky blue? She goes, hey, Katherine, why do you think the sky is blue? And I would have to try to figure it out. So that all of that together sort of creates the reason why I was homeschooled as well. So I did online and accredited correspondence programs before online schooling. Back in the day when we had dial-up and desktop computers, I was doing correspondence schooling through the snail mail.
Wow.
But I was allowed to go at my own pace, and that was kind of the biggest gift, because then I did all of my academics at home and then went to school and did art and music and PE and recess, field trips, before and after school activities. So the actual school was fun for me. That was all where the fun stuff happened. That was all the great stuff. That was playtime.
Yeah.
And then at home was when I did all of my academics, but I was always taught and shown that learning was something fun, and that it was a discovery and a way to open up new worlds that you didn't even know, or maybe you couldn't go to because you're in Missouri, but I could learn about them. And that was always fascinating to me. And so I'm a perpetual student now. Nice. And I didn't even mean to graduate high school. My guidance counselor just said, oh, by the way, you're done after this. And I went, huh? How? What? I don't want to, I'm 14 years old. I don't want to stop going to school.
I'm not ready to be an adult.
I have so much more to learn. But then I was able to go into university and get my business degree and do things that way as well.
And now you're getting your master's, or you're pursuing?
I'm working on my master's right now. It was going to be in applied economics, but it's difficult. There's so many online programs now through amazing schools. I'm at Johns Hopkins right now. So many amazing schools that have programs for people that are working full time, because the way our generation is,
everybody's doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things.
Exactly. So we have to be a little more flexible in the way that we can do schooling, and technology is now at a point where we can do that effectively. And I'm in a literature program now, which is fantastic, and I love it, because I figured, if I've never done anything educationally creative. So I thought, if I'm going to be telling stories for the rest of my life, I might as well know how stories have been told, and what the devices are, and what has been done and what could be done.
Smart.
I thought it was an interesting idea.
I thought it was all right.
And I love reading and analyzing literature, so there you go. I'm a nerd. But actually, I was really thrilled to have done my business degree online correspondence as well, because I was working with different students that were from every different industry. So I was learning about these general concepts of business, but then in our discussion boards, it was being discussed from so many different perspectives that I got such a more real world idea of all of these topics.
Wow.
There you go.
So why acting then over applied economics? Which again, you were like, well, it's difficult because, and you could have just left it at it's difficult. I'm sure 85% of the people in the chat, applied economics, it's difficult. That works for us.
Yeah, well, I would have loved it, but logistically, the program I was in, I would have never been able to finish with my work schedule. I physically could not have done it, so.
So why acting?
So why acting was an accident. Acting was a complete accident for me. I wanted to work in finance. I wanted to be an economic advisor. I wanted to do developmental economics. Numbers were my thing. Economics was the joy of my life. But I was also a ballet dancer and a softball player on the side. And just as another thing I did. But I ran into a family friend who was directing a community theater show. And she said, hey, I need a dancer in my show this summer. Do you want to come? I think I was 12 or something. I said, oh, yeah, sure. Why not? I'll do something different for the summer. Yep. Sounds like fun. Mm-hmm. New experience. I was the kid who would try anything. And I said, yeah, I have a week between science camp and Girl Scout camp. Sure, I'll go to a show. I fell in love with it. You have these rare moments in life where you get a second of clarity in the craziness that happens. And I will never, it sounds so cheesy, but I'll never forget stepping on stage on opening night for the first time. I just stepped on stage, I felt the lights, I felt the energy of the audience, and something hit me like a brick wall that this is what I was put on this earth to do. I have to be a storyteller, I have to be an actor, I have to create characters. This is it for me. And I have never looked back.
Was it then just dividing your time of still going to school, still wanting to pursue economics, and still wanting to do acting? I mean, how did you balance those?
So I went full tilt into acting. I mean, I still loved economics, and obviously I still took classes in that, etc. But I sort of fell in love with all of that, and I said, okay, so I'm going to be an actor, so I'm going to go to school for acting. And actually, UMKC has a great acting program, even a Master's of Arts program, or an MFA program in acting. So that was what I was going to do. I also never thought I'd leave Kansas City, because there's a massive theater community there.
And the barbecue's so good.
And the barbecue's so good. Why would you leave? But there's this incredible community. I always say I was artistically raised in the Kansas City theater community. So there's this group of people there that do it just for the love of the art, and that's something so rare these days. And there are these fantastic actors and producers and directors and designers that make these shows that should not be possible in the middle of the country, but somehow are. And it's this selfless, work ethic that I was raised in that I'm so appreciative of to this day. But I thought, I'll go to school, and then I'll work at the bank during the day, and then the bank closes at 5, so I can make it to my call time in the evening and do theater for the rest of my life. And there you go. Mm-hmm. Perfect.
Yeah.
Life didn't really turn out that way.
Life has a way of doing that.
Yeah, so I was actually in the drama program at UMKC, and then I ended up working with a woman from New York who was in a show in Kansas City. She went off to do a Broadway show in New York. She went back to New York, and I get this random phone call saying, hey, there's an audition for you for this Broadway show in 2 days. Do you want it? And I said, huh? And apparently they needed an immediate replacement in this show. And she had said, this girl from Kansas City would be great for it. I had such a good time working with her. You should call her. I'd never been to New York. So I went, okay, sure. I'll fly to New York for a day, see the city, do this audition, and then go home. Because, I'm not going to book it.
I'm not going to get it.
It's a Broadway show. No way. So I do the audition, and then the call back later that day. And then 40 minutes later, I'm at LaGuardia getting ready to fly home, and I get this phone call. Hey, you booked it. Congratulations. Be in New York in a week, ready to stay for 6 months or more. And I went, oh, sure, I guess. I'll move to New York for 6 months. But you can't really do an acting degree online.
Yeah, it's one of those things that the experience matters just a smidge.
You kind of have to be there. So and the schools in New York, they won't let you work in the industry and go to school at the same time. in the drama programs and things of this nature. So I went, well, I'm not going to quit the show I moved to New York to do.
Yeah.
I'm not going to stop going to school because I'm 14. So what do I do? And I asked the rest of the cast in my show, and they said, well, you're already doing this. You're already doing what people would go to school to do. So go back to economics, go back to business, round yourself out as a person. And I'm so thankful I did. Because now I can read my contracts. I can manage my business from an economic and a business perspective, from the perspective of a CEO per se, as opposed to just a creative person, which is really helpful because sometimes the decisions are not easy.
Especially in today's industry, there's so much of having control and being able to know the ins and outs of an industry versus just being a talking base.
Oh, 100%. My attorney doesn't always love it because every contract I have 20 questions, but I'm so thankful to have an attorney who's willing to actually teach me and answer all of my questions.
You're one of the people who you have the Nike attitude. And I say that, and this is something that has hit me the last several months. People have the Nike attitude of you just do it.
Yeah.
Like something like this happens, and instead of overthinking it or being like, how do I do this? How do I go? You just do it. That's something that I think a lot of people understand is they see the lives of people and say, how do you do? I see you doing these things. How do you do it? Well, you do it.
You just say yes. That's been something that I have to continually remind myself of in life is you just be open to whatever comes your way, and you just try not to plan too much. You dream, you hope, you figure out what you want for your life, but I never try and plan too specifically for anything because I've found that life has a funny way of throwing things at you, throwing what you want at you if you're open to it, but it's often in a way that you don't expect. And if you're open to saying yes to things that come your way in life, you're open to any opportunities, to anything that could spawn something else that takes you on a path you might never expect, but might be the most wonderful thing ever.
What would the 11-year-old, 12-year-old Kat say to you right now, looking at what the last 10, 11, 12, 13 years have been for you?
Holy cow, probably, would be the first thing out of my mouth.
Would that year old Kat be surprised?
100%. 100%. When I was 11 or 12, I thought I was going to be an economist. I thought I was going to be, the next Alan Greenspan or something, let alone what I'm doing now. My life is completely different than I ever imagined it would be. But I'm so thankful. And I also have to give huge credit to my mom and my grandparents because they, not only did they support me through all of this and just encourage me to say yes to these things and move me to New York and move me to LA and help me out with, the logistics of everything, which can be so difficult. But they also raised me in a way to make everything in life fun and to make everything, sure, why not?
Yep.
To make it a game and just go, yeah, okay, sure. Is it complicated? Maybe. Is it possible? Yeah, I bet somehow. We'll figure it out. And I don't know if that's the Midwestern attitude or if that's just my weird family, but that's what we do.
Yeah. Burnout can be real, though. And when you're doing so many things, you're doing the degrees, you're doing the acting, the softball on the side.
Yes.
Burnout can be real. How do you avoid that? Or have you experienced that before and then learned from it, of doing too much?
I think the closest thing I've ever experienced to it has been either massive jet lag from flying all over the world, or, it's something I learned on Shadowhunters, really. When you do 13, 10, 20 episodes at a time of a show that's so physically, emotionally taxing, it can be draining. And you feel that wear and tear on yourself. But what I learned is to remind yourself of why you love it, to find the why. Why am I doing this in the first place? What is it that I love about it? And if you focus on the joy and you focus on being thankful and finding that silver lining, that will carry you through. And that's what I continually do. And I think some people get annoyed with me because I always find the silver lining in every situation. I have friends that sometimes will go, just let me be upset. Just let me be angry about this for a minute. I want to be angry. I go, okay, well, at least maybe you'll burn calories if you punch a pillow or something. And they go, stop it. But that's how I get through life. Everybody goes through hard times in their life and things where they feel as though the world is crashing down on them. And I've been through those times too. I've had things happen in my life where I think my world is crashing down around me.
Career, personal?
Both.
Okay.
And it's in those moments that I've chosen to go, you know what? Life is too short to let these things get in my way. Because I can choose to make this the end of the world. I can choose to make this the end of everything and to focus and to live in and dwell in that darkness. Or I can choose to take action and to use this as a motivation. Or even if everything's gone to all hell, use it as a fresh start. And pick myself up again and start fresh. Because at least you can move forward.
Is that a fear with Shadowhunters coming in? I mean, 4 years of your life of having that and being like, what's next? I mean, is that something that you face, that feeling, that
It certainly
thought?
was. Yeah, I can definitely tell you that as soon as I found out the show wasn't moving forward, I went, oh, and I think this is, because I listen to a lot of podcasts, this is something that I think a lot of actors feel, is that we are so subjective in our own careers that we go, oh, well, all right, this job's over. Well, I guess that means I'm never going to work again. That was a nice career. Great, cool. I guess
Yeah.
I'll do something else with my life. I'd been gone for almost 4 years from LA for the most part. I didn't think anybody was going to, remember me or know who the hell I was or even care. And I get back to LA and Arrow was the second audition that I went on and I ended up booking it. I was a little gutted because I'm one of those weird people that loves auditioning and being on my toes and having to, kind of fight for it a little
pressure.
bit. Yeah, I like it. I do well under pressure. But it's one of those situations where it was the second audition I booked so very quickly. I went, oh, thank God, at least I have another job. At least I have work for a little bit. But yeah, it is something that goes through my head with those sort of things. But again, I'm a firm believer in if it's meant to be yours, it will be. And if not, there's something else you're supposed to be doing. So just hang on, because it'll happen somehow if it's meant to.
You live a very public life.
Yes.
I mean, heck, we're on camera right now.
Oh,
You're
yes.
probably right after this going to another place where you're going to be on camera. You have millions of followers on your social media. You're with these shows that have these amazing fans that are always wanting more, always needing more. How do you balance the professional life and the personal life? And is there moments that you wish you didn't have the fame and the publicity?
There are moments where I wonder. I don't have it in a way that a lot of other people do. The way that attention is on my life in a public way has always been very positive, and I'm very thankful for that, because I've seen people that I know go through it in a very negative way, and it's hell on earth basically for them, and it's no fun for anyone. And I understand why people can hate it eventually. I haven't gotten to that place yet, and I'm very thankful for that. But there are times where I wonder what it would be like, and there are certain times where I go, oh, well, yeah, I wish I could do X, Y, or Z, but I can't because of the public life that I live. But equally, it's part of what I've chosen to do for a living. It's part of my job, especially in today's world, in the world of social media and the fact that none of us really have privacy anymore.
Nobody has privacy.
It's just how it is, and so you just have to learn to accept it. I love my job, and this is part of it, so I'll take it. But I do definitely have a line between what I share publicly and what I don't. There are some things that I keep for myself, and I'm conscious of that, and I think I have to be. People can get in the habit of living their life for social media, and there was a very brief time in my life where I started to do that. I started to plan my day around what I could post.
It's easy too. It's so easy
to do, and especially when social media platforms make it so easy. And so consciously, I've kind of had to take a step back and go, okay, I will keep an eye out for opportunities, but I'm not going to live my life based around it. So
Where is that line? So fans, stop asking her where she says this line. Where is that line for you of what you want out there, what you don't want out? I mean, certain work things, relationships, friend,
Yeah.
like what do you want to stay private?
I mean, it's a very specific thing, and it's always situational.
Okay.
So I don't know if I can really quantify it specifically, but I think every person who does live a life like this has to know where they stand. And there are times where I am about to post something or say something online, and I go, wait, actually want to share that? Is that something that I want out there in the world? And sometimes it's, well, yeah, sure, why not? And sometimes it's, you know what? Maybe not yet. Maybe not yet. And so you have to really be sure before you hit post. Even if you don't live a public life, you have to be sure before you put something on the internet because it doesn't go away.
Take a minute. Take 1 minute, 60 seconds, and just be like, okay, here's the phone, here's the post. All right. What will happen in a week, in 2 weeks? Will I regret this? Will it be worth the attention that it gets?
You always have to have a friend, too, that you text to double check it. I'm very good at justifying anything. So I can convince myself out of doing just about anything. Also, my grandparents just got Instagram.
Wow.
I helped them set up an Instagram over Christmas, so now I really have to be careful what I post on social media.
Did they want this, or was this you saying, Grams, you need to be on the gram?
I like the pun. I like the pun there.
I got it, yep.
But it was sort of a little bit of both. My cousins and I are all on Instagram, and my aunts and uncles are as well, and that's sort of how we keep in touch, especially because we're all spread out all over the world now that, we've all been through university and we're all kind of figuring out where our lives are. For the first time, we're not as connected as we used to be. And Instagram helps us stay in touch more than we ever have. And I was telling my grandma about that because I knew things about my cousins that she was like, wait, I didn't know that, or wait, let me look at that picture. And I was showing them, and she goes, well, how do I look at these things? How can I see that? And I went, well, Grandma, I can help you set up an Instagram if you want.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And she's a watercolor artist too. So she ran an ER for her whole career, but now she does watercolor art. And after we made her page, she goes, how would I post a picture of one of my paintings? And I was like, Grandma, let's do it.
Awesome.
It was the sweetest
That is amazing.
thing. But it's great. I love having it there because I guess I just heard from my mom this morning, and apparently my grandma really liked my dress that I wore this weekend, and she was able to tell my mom that without my mom sending her a picture.
Now, was
cool.
ever the thought of creating a not public page or a different Instagram? Because you have your main public one that, 2.5 million, whatever it is. Was there ever the thought of, I'm going to create just a personal one? I mean, I know some people do that. Did you ever do that? Have you ever done that to be able to keep up with friends?
I haven't. I've thought about it.
Okay.
But I think it's just so much. I spend so much time on social media anyway. I really
it's
don't want to
even more time on social media.
I don't want to double the amount of time I spend on my phone. So, Instagram, I follow a lot more accounts on Twitter than I do on Instagram, and I try and follow Instagrams that I actually know the people.
Yeah.
I do look at the tagged section though, because I love seeing the fan art and the fan edits and posts on Instagram.
So keep tagging.
I do. I love it. So tag away. Tweet at me. I love it. So I will stalk fans on social media sometimes just to see what they're saying.
They just came out with like a new update where you can control, it sends you an alert, like you can control the amount of time you have on Instagram. One of my friends just got it and he was like, I can only do 30 minutes a day. And I was like, well, that's something I'm not doing.
Wow.
Like,
I get the weekly report that says, oh, your screen time has increased by 26% this week. And I go, thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Where is the off button on that?
I know. Well, also, I binge Netflix shows sometimes while I'm at the gym if I'm not listening to podcasts. So my screen time is not always accurate. Sometimes I'm actually doing stuff.
Yeah. It's work, too.
Yeah.
It's work.
Yeah, it's research, right?
That's
what we call it.
I love it. Fantastic. What goal do you have when you take a role? Do you go in and say, oh, I want to do this in this role, or I want to represent it this way, or is there a certain way that you approach every role?
There's different layers to this.
Okay.
So in general, yes. I mean, my favorite scripts that I read are the ones that I read that scare me. That I go, I don't actually know if I can do that. I don't know if that's within my realm of possibility.
And then the Nike attitude kicks in.
Exactly. Because then it pushes me to grow and to learn something. I think my biggest fear in life is stagnance and not growing and not learning something. So any opportunity to push myself, I'll take it in a heartbeat. But with every role, there's always specific things. With Clary, for example, it was, this show is on my shoulders. This centers around this character, and I have to I have to bring it. I have to carry this thing for a little bit. And then, as the other characters and relationships grow, it becomes an ensemble thing and it's great. But a lot of it, I have to figure out how to do at 19 years old. Oh, and by the way, I have to fight. And I have to figure out the source material and all these other things. And with Arrow, it's, now I'm playing an actual badass who's really quite a hardcore human being in every sense of the word.
Very much so.
Which is, I'm a very bubbly, bright person, and she is not. So, you have to find that part of yourself. And it with each role, it becomes this kind of challenge. And so I guess my goal with each character is to learn from it, grow from it, accomplish those goals, and really to serve the project to the best of my ability, to play my little role, to be the pawn, to be the cog in the machine, and serve the greater good of the project.
I'm going to throw a word at you, and I want to know what your thoughts are. Like, when you hear this word, what do you feel? What are your thoughts on this word?
Okay.
Quit.
I don't know that word. I don't understand the meaning of that word. That word is not in my vocabulary. Something else you have to understand about me is I'm incredibly stubborn to a fault.
To a fault.
Sometimes to my own detriment, often to my own detriment, and I've been told as much by many people. But I won't change it because that's who I am.
Because that would be quitting, and we're not about that life.
Exactly. But that's something that I do not quit. I've had, for example, my the stunt coordinator on Shadowhunters was this insanely talented martial artist. He was a stuntman for years, and now he's a stunt coordinator, world-class, world champion martial artist in his heyday. And he would have to stop me when we were training. We would get to a point where he'd go, okay, and now you go home, and you don't do this anymore for the rest of the day, you promise? You promise? At least not much. You take a break, at least for a couple hours. Because he knows I won't. I won't stop. I'll never say die. I won't quit. But that's just part of who I am.
Yeah. And that's how you've gotten to where you are.
Exactly. I'm not afraid of hard work. I thrive on it.
What drives you in life, in work? What keeps you going? You wake up in the morning and you're like, yes, this is it.
I think something that was instilled in me from a very young age is that every day is an opportunity to accomplish something, whether it's to learn something or to grow or to have an adventure or whatever it ends up being. You have the world in front of you, so take it. Have fun. Go do something. Go find something. Go live your life to the fullest, because nobody else is going to do it for you. And I guess it's that midwestern work ethic maybe that drives me every single day. Maybe also a little bit the fear of stagnance, but I think that's healthy. I think that's a good thing. I love what I do, and I'm so thankful and so grateful for everything, all of the opportunities that I've had up until this point, and I want to do everything in my power to continue that. So it's my pleasure to get up every day and, go train and go to these Comic-Cons and talk to people or post something on social media that might make someone smile. Anything I can do to be a positive force in the world, I want to.
You are my new favorite person. You are. It's amazing. That's it. I almost want to end the show, but we have a few more questions. But if you learn something, if you take one thing away, it's that.
Because what's stopping you?
What's stopping you?
Why not is my question, I guess. People say why. I say, well, why not?
I'm going to throw another word at you. Give me your definition, your feeling, success.
I try not to define it because I don't want to put a ceiling on it. I think that it can be anything you want it to be. I think in the general sense, it's feeling fulfilled as a person, feeling accomplished, feeling happy with your life and with what you're doing. I have to remind myself, and I think one of my best friends for this, because he is the first person who, I didn't go on a vacation that didn't have anything to do with work for 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And last year this time, he pulled me aside and he goes, I'm taking you to an island. You're going to sit on the beach for a week and you're going to do nothing and you're going to like it. And I don't care what you say, but you're not going to do anything for a whole week. And I went, I don't think that's possible. I don't think you can do that. I don't think I can sit on a beach for a week. And I did. And it was the best thing I could have
Awesome.
done. I completely relaxed. But it's about finding that balance for you. Because after a week, I couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah.
I was ready to get back to work.
Yep.
But I was ready in a way that I'd never been ready before. And I guess success is finding a way to balance all of the things you want for your life and to feel fulfilled and established in that, but still have room to grow.
Sometimes too, when you're too busy, you're filling up a space and not allowing anything else in. And so when you're working on such projects and things in life and your brain is completely filled, you're not allowing anything new to come in. And when you take a step back, sometimes those genius ideas just come and you're like, why could I never think of that? Well, it's because you were just swarmed. And that's exactly what it is.
Exactly. So, and also I feel like when you focus on something too specifically, you're not open to it coming to you in the way that it's supposed to, or in a way that you might not expect. And so I think success, it's different for everyone, but you know, if you put something out in the world, it's going to come back to you, but it might not be how you think it is. And if you're open to it, you'll find it eventually. And that's something else I always try and put out there in the world is, you know, your dreams will come to you if you work hard and if you are open to them. But if you're too closed off and too bogged down on all the little details, it might go right by you and you might miss it.
2 questions left. One is someone had in the chat.
All right.
Do you always want to act? Do you see yourself acting for the rest of your life?
Yes, and.
Yes, and.
That's what I'm going to say to you.
Okay.
That's what they always say in comedy. You always say yes, and. You never say no.
Good improv.
It is good improv. Those are the rules, right? But I don't foresee a time in my life where I will ever want to stop creating characters and telling stories and walking a million different lives and figuring out what makes people tick. But that's not the only thing I want to do. Yeah, I definitely want to direct. I want to write. I want to film. I'm starting to get into photography as well because I like seeing the world through a lens, and I film photography in the sense that it forces me to have a little bit of patience and to treat each shot as precious, because it is. But yeah, there's so much more I want to do and so much more I want to put out in the world, both creatively and otherwise.
So that leads into our last question. It's one of my favorite questions of asking people. And that, well, look at you, like, ready. Look at this.
So ready.
She's got the hand on the chin. She's ready to go. In 50, 100 years, people look back on your life. Your work, your relationships, your things that you've accomplished. What are 2 to 3 things you want people to remember from your life? Kat McNamara, she was...
I think overall, I'd like to be... This is a mildly morbid question. I want to be remembered as... no, I'd like to be thought of as someone who did unexpected, creative, and diverse work as an actor and otherwise. Someone who made people think about the human experience. I think that's our job as storytellers, is to hold a mirror up to our world, both in realistic and absurd ways, that causes people to look at themselves and at their own experience, but also make people think about other people's perspective and to really think about the human experience, both internally and externally. So that's the only way society can grow, is if if it's thrown in our face and we realize, oh, this is something we need to cherish, or oh, this is something we have to change now, or the world is going to look like this. And I think, you know, we all have to choose the world we want to live in, and I think a lot of that starts in art and in that form of expression. So, you know, I'd like to be remembered as contributing to that in some way. I'd like to be seen as a positive force for the world in other ways as well. And as someone who lived her life and who accomplished something that was fulfilling and that meant something. I think that's all I can really ask for.
Yeah, that's a fantastic.
Thank
Moving
you.
forward, there you go.
There you go. Goals.
That's goals right there. That's your resolution. That's your life resolution.
It is.
Do you do resolution? You have 2019?
I have a few.
Okay.
I took Latin in high school.
Okay.
I really would like to speak another language. So I'd like to work on that. I'm trying to take
Latin or another one?
No,
Oh.
a language that I can actually speak in colloquially in society. I travel a lot,
Okay, yeah.
and so I would like to speak to people in other countries and not have to go, I'm really sorry,
Yeah.
do you speak English? I know how to say, excuse me, do you speak English in a few languages.
Love it.
But that's about it. I'm trying to take the word like out of my vocabulary. I think it's something that a lot of us do far too much, so I'm trying to do that personally. Also, I heard this conversation where somebody was speaking about being vulnerable to joy. And I thought that was such an interesting way of putting it. But it kind of goes back to just being open to having good things happen to you, or being vulnerable enough to let something come into your life, whether it's whether it's a good thing and it brings you great joy, or whether it's really difficult and you might get hurt and you learn from it. I want to experience that. I want to have things happen in my life, and I want to learn from them and grow from them, and whether they be good or bad, I'll learn something and I'll experience something, and that's worthwhile to me.
It's a great attitude. Fantastic.
That's my
attitude.
2019.
For 2019, go for that for 2022. Make that a 2-year, because that's so good you can have for
It's a
2
big
years.
one.
That's a big one. Thank you.
Thank
you
you.
for coming in, again, for listening before you came in, but also, for being so honest and just for being a great person.
Thank
I mean,
you.
it's amazing to see the fan support. I always love seeing that, and the number of fans in the chat and the 100 people that we have watching. Keep reaching out on social media. Keep doing the tags, because you look at the tags at Kat_McNamara on Twitter, at Kat.McNamara on Instagram. You can follow me after the show at The Only MC, and certainly we are grateful always to be here on the Popcorn Talk Network, at the Popcorn Talk on Instagram and on Twitter. We're live here every single Monday, except we have one more episode left in season 4. Next week, we are back on Monday with an incredible episode, but you can follow all the previous episodes on podcast. Look it up. I Could Never Be. That's all it is. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're my new favorite person. I'll tell you that again and again. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Go out, be a light. See you next time.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.